Hi guys. I wanted to talk about unconditional love. I just think it's a term that gets thrown around in a world that doesn't truly understand it or use it in the context in which it was sort of intended as a whole. Where does it even come from? That's a question I would like to know the answer to, because I originally filmed this video and I was talking about Christianity because I kind of thought it came from Christianity, but then I did a little bit of research and even in the Bible, doesn't say really it says that God's love is basically, they describe it as being unconditional without expectation, and that we should mirror that love. But it's not like how we use it. And it's how I think of it is it's a big blanket term for a large idealistic concept that actually helps us in the higher order of things when we want to forgive, light in our heart, find peace within, and things like that. And instead we use it like we should love people unconditionally, even though their behavior doesn't make sense in our lives or in their lives or things like that. However, it doesn't really work that way because, we'd be okay with somebody being disciplined when they break the law or, other things. So I think we're using it incorrectly in our lives, and we need to check ourselves because a lot of times, it's like an ego thing that we're protecting ourselves. We want people to not, quote unquote, judge us, which is another funny word I'd like to break down a little bit. What does that even mean when people say, don't judge me? Is that real? Are we being judgmental if we don't like someone else's behaviors? Does that make us judgmental? I don't think so. I think we're allowed to have the worlds that we want in our worlds. If it's different if you condemn someone, right? Or if racism is not an okay thing. That's a different type of judgment that carries anger and hatred and all these negative things. But if you don't like the way somebody's behaving in your world, and that means that you can't have them in their world, that's not a judgment. And it doesn't mean you don't love them either, And I think that's how a lot of times we're using those, don't judge me, or love me unconditionally, or these sorts of words. That's not the right, really, usage there. And when it comes to judgment, I think judgment is a much harsher thing. A judge is someone who sits up there and weighs out all the information and makes a judgment on a person's behavior to either, condemn them or not condemn them. Most of us are not doing that when we, quote unquote, judge someone, or when they think we're judging them. We're not sitting there with a jury telling them, what they're done and they have to go to jail or that they shouldn't go to jail or whatever. That's not what's happening. That's a higher order term, I think, judging someone because of their outfit and not liking their outfit. That's okay. You can not like someone's style, but not liking their style and being rude to them or throwing that, hurting them in some way is not okay. Not liking a person's personality and choosing to not be their friend, that's a choice. It doesn't mean you hate them or you're judging them or you don't want it. It doesn't work with you. And we're all humans in this very vast world with so much different culture and ideas and viewpoints. And it's okay to not want everyone as your friend. That's a fine thing. And we shouldn't feel offended when someone doesn't want us as their friend or doesn't want us in their sphere of influence or doesn't want them in their world. Why do we feel that way? Why do we need everyone to love us and like us and think we're, cool and our personalities are good? We don't need that. And when we're really true to ourselves and we love ourselves and we know ourselves, we don't need others' approval and love. But beyond that, we can love people and not have them as friends or family members or people in our world. We can love people from afar. We can love people and let them go. We can forgive people and love them and never see them again. That's fine. Like, I don't know where we got this idea, this weird concept that we have to be unconditionally loving to everyone. That does not work. Like I said, unconditional love is meant for forgiveness. It's that God love. And if I had said it in my other video, if you've done ayahuasca or been on a psychedelic journey, or if you're a devout Christian or devout Buddhist, or you've gotten to those transcendental meditation places, or you've just felt that pureness of love, I think that's unconditional love. That's nature love. When Osho talks about the flower growing and not picking it, like you don't want to take people, that's not loving them, that's, taking them. But like, we're not flowers, we're not nature, we're not in these heightened states all the time. We're in a formal matter world. We aren't Jesus-like. We're not Buddha-like. Maybe a few of you out there are, but most of us are not living that extreme. We're trying. We're doing a good job, but we can't, we're holding concepts to ourselves, but we're not really truly, we're not sinless. We're not desireless. We're not perfect, beings. We're not flowers. We're not full nature beings. And we're getting these concepts confused, in my opinion, right now, because there's a lot of spirituality, right? There's a lot of but there's always been spirituality, right? We're in a more progressive spirituality where we can accept multiple cultures, where you don't just have to be Christian, or you have to be one way, or you have to be you could be lots of things now, and you can be accepted, you can have different viewpoints, and you can do things and be things that you couldn't be in religions that before didn't allow you to be there. So, we're really growing and changing, and there is a lot going on. So as we do that, I think it's really important that we be careful. We be careful that we don't use these concepts in an egotistical way to support our bad behaviors, our undisciplined natures, or our messes of human beings. Like we let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be honest with, what's going on. Love is the love I have for you and me and my family and my sister and my significant others, or my dog. Like, that's connection, really. It's connection. Some of them are attachments, some of them are healthy, some of them are unhealthy. Love, the essence of love that's something else. It's a much more vast concept. It's a higher order information, the relationships we have between one another. I think if we get really deep on our paths, we can get closer to that stuff, but we still have to be careful, because we're not that stuff. We're not that pure of heart. We're not that pure of nature. We're not desireless. We're not that perfect being. So we can't apply the perfect concepts to ourselves and our relationships and what's around us. We live in a conditional world, and if we put these sorts of pressures on us, it's very hard to have the relationships we do have. I wouldn't even call something conditional love, because I don't think conditional love is a thing, but there are conditions to our world. There are laws, there are rules, there are regulations, and even free spirits, we can kind of, manage outside of those realms, but we're still in it significantly, and we can't bypass those sorts of things, our human nature, who we are, our egos, all these sort of things that really connect us to this material world either. So anyways, I just think that's important stuff to be talking about, just to be opening the conversations, really breaking down these concepts, being sure we know what we're talking about, and and going from there. All right.